I'd like now to introduce our moderators for tonight's debate. We have Lauren Burris. Lauren is the chair of the 11th District Majority Committee. Can you give a wave, Lauren? We have Thayrone X, voice of Wham Radio. And we have Scott Hagerstrom. Scott served in leadership in 6 states as for the Donald Trump for president, including campaign director for the state of Michigan. So please welcome Scott Hagerstrom. Now on to our candidates. Joining us tonight is Lena Epstein. Kurt Heisey. Christine Bonds. Carrie Bentivolio. And Rocky Rutkowski. I'm sorry, Clint Kesto. Thank you, Clint.
I would have listed you if she did.
Okay, I'm going to quickly go over the rules so you know what the rules are for tonight's debate. Each candidate will be given a 30-second introduction, and they'll have a 1-minute closing statement. We're going to start at this side and go this way for the openings, and then go this way back for the closings. 30 seconds, 1-minute closing. During the debate, candidates will be asked questions that require 1-word answers. And they will be asked other questions that they'll give a minute to answer for. Now, if a moderator decides that it isn't quite what they were looking for, or they didn't feel that it was answered to their satisfaction, they can follow up, and each candidate will be given 30 seconds to respond. If their name is mentioned in a response from another candidate, they'll be given 30 seconds to respond. I also have a couple questions that are going to be asked by Area 11th District organization leaders. So you'll see a couple people from Rattle with us. We're going to have Sharon Lolio, and we're going to have Matt Wilk from Northville Republicans also help us out there. Our timekeeper will be keeping time limits, and she's going to show the candidates when they have 15 seconds left, and she's going to show them when they need to stop by showing them a red sign. If they run over, we have a very special method to let them know. Okay, now following our debate, we remind everyone that lives in the district, in the 11th district, and you were pre-approved to vote in our straw poll, and that will be held up here. So we need you to vote if you live in the 11th and you were pre-approved, you've gotten a straw. We will be carefully monitoring this, and then afterwards, when that count is taken, each candidate has been asked to provide a representative from their campaign to oversee the final count. So without further ado, we're going to begin this evening's questions with Lauren Burris.
Intros? Opening statements?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes, we're going to begin with opening statements.
Good evening, and thank you very much for hosting this. 30 seconds, I can get my name out, Rocky Rutkowski, and that's about 30 seconds. But more importantly, I wanted to introduce myself by telling you what's most important to me, and that is my faith, my country, my family. And that is why I'm running. Because many of you, like myself, are just as frustrated with Republicans in office as we are with Democrats. And many times we have candidates that are running for office, that are campaign conservatives. They come out and they promise the world, but yet we've elected a Republican Congress and we can't get them to overturn Obamacare. And we've seen what happened in last year. I'm Rocky Rutkowski. I think tonight you'll see the difference, and I hope to earn your support.
Good evening. My name is Clint Kesto, currently state representative from the 39th House District, was a former prosecuting attorney in Wayne County. And I fought for the people in that job, and I fought for the people as a state representative. I'm a Christian, I'm a father, I'm a conservative. Most importantly, though, what we're going to do is protect our Constitution. That's what our founding fathers put forth for us. That's what I'll do when I go to Washington. Protect the First Amendment with our religious liberties and religious freedoms, our Second Amendment rights, and also our 10th Amendment, so that we can bring the power back to the states. Thank you, and I look forward to serving you.
My name is Kerry Bentivolio. The hardest part I have is getting everybody to pronounce my name correctly. You got to sing it when you say it. Bentivolio, you try it. I can't hear you, what? Who scored as the congressman, the second most transparent member of Congress? Who got 100% rating for cutting government spending? Who's the most conservative congressman in Michigan other than Justin Amash? Thank you very much. Experience matters.
I'm Christine Bonds, and it is a very high privilege to be here tonight. Thank you for inviting me. I am not a polished politician. I'm here as a neighbor, as a mother, as a friend, as a small business owner, because as Jefferson said, the greatest power relative to government lies with you, with me. And I want to be a voice that matters, and I want to be a face that matters relative to the most important and frightening opioid epidemic we're experiencing as a nation.
Good evening, I'm Kurt Heisey. I have spent my 25 years as an attorney in the public sector, in local, county, and state government. Throughout that time, I have employed common sense conservative principles to make government work for the people. I'm exactly the kind of person we need in Washington, D.C. today. Somebody who can hit the ground running, who has the education and the experience and the will to make a difference in Washington, D.C. I've taken on the establishment, folks. You know my story. You know I have fought the establishment and won. I'll fight for you in Washington, D.C.
My name is Lena Epstein. I am a businesswoman and not a politician. I've spent my entire life creating jobs, and I've had the opportunity to serve my family business, Vesco Oil Corporation, that employs over 200 people and exceeds 175 million in annual sales. I was very, very inspired by Donald J. Trump when I was asked to co-chair his campaign statewide. We went red for the first time since 1988. We are just getting started. I am pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, in favor of trade deals that protect American sovereignty and American jobs, and I am against illegal immigration. I will fight for you. I am the strongest candidate. God bless you. I'm looking forward to the tough issues tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. We'll start with, this is a question for each and every one of you, so each of you has 1 minute to answer. Here's the question, and we'll start with Rocky. What skills, qualities, or experience do you have that separate you from other 11th District candidates?
Most importantly, I've served in the military for 26 and a half years. I served with Pete Meyer, who served with me overseas, and I'm proud to have him here today. I was honored and humbled to have earned the Bronze Star for combat operations. I started out as a private, rose to the rank of sergeant, then became an officer, and I was a leader in the military. And I will be more than happy to release my military officer record so that you can see what my superiors said about our leadership quality. But most importantly also is that I served in the state legislature. And when I served in the state legislature, I did something that Donald Trump also did, and that is returned my benefits and the pork back to the citizens of the state of Michigan. I'm the only individual to have ever done that in the state's history. Also, so I'm not interested in political benefits or anything else. I'm interested in serving my country. I have a family, a business that we started that has now grossed over $28 million in 6 years, and I bring that leadership experience back. Last and most important also is that I hope to work for you. That's the key. I'm not interested in going to DC to working for the Washington establishment or being told what to do or what to say.
I was a former prosecutor in Wayne County. Very voluminous place. Tried cases, litigated cases, but most importantly served justice. Fought for those victims in those cases. And then I got elected to the Michigan House of Representatives, where I've served as the chair of the Judiciary Committee, the chair of the Law and Justice Committee. I've been able to work through the legislation that we need to rein back government, to reduce taxes. I've been an A+ member of the NRA, been endorsed by Right to Life. I've done these things and I've served the people while doing so. We brought in genocide education to teach about the Holocaust and Armenian genocide, and we got that passed. We're holding government accountable and draining the swamp with legislation that says the government bureaucrats can't get all of the control, that it needs to go back to have accountability and transparency. We passed civil asset forfeiture reform under my leadership so that government is not running amok. So we're holding accountable our law enforcement agencies. And with that, I have bills out there for welfare reform currently, to create more jobs, to get people off the government dole. Thank you.
Everybody, I've been there, done that. The American Taxpayers Union rated me Guardian or Taxpayer Friend Award. It's one of the highest awards they issue for members of Congress who don't like to spend your money. I also got the top award from the Small Business Association. It's called Guardian of Small Business. I have a 93% conservative rating, endorsed by the NRA. I was the only member of Congress who actually served in Vietnam and Iraq in combat units. Been there and done that, passed 3 pieces of legislation, and the House historian said, and it's in the Congressional record, that I was the most effective and successful freshman congressman in 50 years. In the Congressional record, it actually says in recent memory. It's a misquote, but it is what it is. Thank you. We passed a bill called the Safe and Secure Federal Websites Act, which basically had 126 co-sponsors, which was a record for a freshman first-term congressman. Thank you very much. My name is Kerry Bentivolio. I intend to do the same job when I get back to Washington. God bless.
So, I moved back to Michigan in 2007 when 2 of the 3 domestic OEMs were in junk bond status and my family was concerned. I didn't have a job lined up and I got pretty resourceful. Found a job, loved that job, and 2 years later I was laid off because we were in a very deep recession. I like to consider it a depression. So I had house bills to pay, I had 2 kids entering college, and I was responsible for 50% of our household's bills, and I needed to do something. And I sought counsel, and I decided to put a shingle up in Farmington Hills, and I've never looked back. I created new jobs. I mentored young students right out of college who are very much in debt, who couldn't find jobs. And today I'm here because I have real-world experiences that I think are applicable to your lives.
Thank you. When I was a young man in high school, I always enjoyed politics and government. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wasn't quite sure what to do with that law degree. I had a choice. You could go into the private sector and make a lot of money, or you go into the public sector and make a difference. I chose the latter and embarked on a career that I'm very proud of. 25 years of public sector experience in local government, county government, and state government. 5 years as the mayor's deputy in Dearborn Heights, 6 years as the environment director for Wayne County, which would be equivalent to the Water Resources Commissioner in Oakland, and 6 years as state representative. I currently serve as Plymouth Township Supervisor. I want to talk a little bit about my time in Lansing. I was the chairman of the House Criminal Justice Committee, vice chair of House Judiciary. In 6 years, I was able to pass 39 public acts, 39 laws. And these are real laws, not just boilerplate, not just filler. Most of them dealing with criminal justice issues, especially to fight the scourge of human trafficking. When I find issues, I'm passionate about them. I will work and employ my education and experience to make it work, because ultimately it's about making government work for you.
Question is, why me and why now? I'm a business owner, a job creator. I understand that government's role is to get out of the way so that small businesses and small business owners and employees can grow and thrive. I went to the mat for Donald J. Trump when the rest of the world said that he would never win. And I've continued to go to the mat for our president who puts America first. And I'm a national surrogate to the White House, and I can tell you that I will be the America First president's supporter in Congress to help him advance his legislative agenda. I am also capable of amassing the millions of dollars necessary to compete against any Democrat that is put in my way come August of 2017. I am a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a concerned citizen, and most of all, I am ready to fight for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now I have a question for each and every one of you, but this would be a 2-word answer because I'm going to ask for a name. What present member of Congress do you admire most? Rocky.
Jim Jordan.
Orrin Hatch.
Jim Jordan.
Orrin Hatch.
I would have to say Jim Jordan.
Senator Mike Lee.
Question. This is for everyone. We'll start with Representative Kesto. What do you think about President Trump's tweets? And you each have 1 minute to answer.
About his tweets, I think that we get through the fake news and the fake media with them. He's done an exceptional job. He's won the candidacy. He's won the presidency because of his tweets. And frankly, we the people are watching. We're trying to get that information, and it's an exceptional way to do it, and he's done a tremendous job. So I say he keeps doing it. Let's tweet at real Donald Trump right now.
Oh, I'm sorry, Karen.
I couldn't agree. Got it?
Safe broadcast.
I couldn't agree more. It's the only way to get through the fake news. You've got to go through that liberal media filter, and I think what he's doing is leapfrogging. I think it's genius. A lot of people criticize him because it's unpresidential, but the media treats the president unpresidentially. They really do. And I know what it's like to deal with the fake news. Trust me, I know that. And I think he's doing a wonderful job. Keep on tweeting, Mr. President, if you're listening.
I love the tweets. I think it's his way of very quickly in real time, a way of letting us know what he's feeling, and I think they're real, and thank God for technology.
Applause. I think the tweets are certainly his way of going over the, got some feedback here. Got it? All right. I think it's certainly his way of going over the heads of the media to get his message out there, and it's a modern day way of doing that. And it's not unusual to have presidents or people in public office employ media over the centuries to have gotten their word out, and he's clearly very effective with it. I think the most important thing, though, is that we translate those tweets into policy. And I think that the Congress's achievement, the President's achievement on tax reform a couple weeks ago is something that far outweighs any positive or negative tweet that he puts out there. I can tell you, if I was in Congress right now, I would have supported the tax reform package and would have joined the President in that beautiful bill signing a couple weeks ago.
As a surrogate to the White House, to President Trump, I have interfaced with local, state, national, and international media. I get a daily briefing of the President's activities, and I can assure all of you, my friends, that 98% of what Donald J. Trump does never reaches the public. As a result, President Trump needs Twitter. We need the President to use Twitter to convey the important work that he is doing every single day. As a media surrogate, I have taken a personal responsibility to convey the facts, and 9 times out of 10 in an interview, whether it's with CNN, Fox Business, or local, people ask me to pontificate, to interpret. That's not news. The news is that we have the best president in American history. We have unprecedented stock market success, unemployment at all-time lows, and we are going to provide rocket fuel to this economy because of the new tax bill. That is the fact. Thank you.
Lena is absolutely correct. Any one of you can get a daily brief by going onto the White House .gov website and signing up, and you can be briefed on exactly what the candidates get briefed on a daily basis. I encourage you to do that. But the candidates talked about using Twitter to get the message out, because we're in a 24-hour news cycle. And if you really want to communicate with the voters, especially 29 million people in an instant, you can tweet. Now let me tell you where it's been most effective: in North Korea, because it's destabilized the president of North Korea, or the supreme leader of North Korea, something we've never seen before. Clinton, Bush 43, Obama, all failed, all talked about diplomacy. And the only way we can get this dictator, or as I've read in a tweet, Rocket Man, to be a little bit more active and to come to the table and to listen and be serious about our threats to him on his nuclear weapons, is by President's tweets. So I encourage it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, another rapid response question, and we'll start with Carrie. In 2015-16 election cycle, who was your first choice for president?
Ben Carson.
Ben Carson.
Marco Rubio.
Donald J. Trump.
Donald Trump.
Marco Rubio.
Thank you.
First off, let me say I feel like I'm at an alumni party for Let It Rip. Now I gotta ask you guys, I quit counting at 7 on how many times I've been on there. When you were under, did they pair you with as many felons as they did me? Come on, how many felons these do? Hello, and thank you for coming on tonight, and thank you for running for this important office. This goes to all, and let's start with Lena. Regarding these so-called dreamers.
You want to start with
Regarding the let's start with you. Let's come in, we'll go that way now. The so-called dreamers, which are listed as children, which are now I think 35 years old and part of MS-13. But anyway, that's just my take. Do you think that this should be tied to any kind of negotiation around wall funding to make these illegal aliens legal?
I love you, Thayrone. Great question. President Trump did the right thing by deferring the issue of DACA and sending it directly to Congress. What Barack Obama did was unconstitutional in issuing executive order. With that said, I support the building of the wall, and I must read the legislation before deciding how I would vote on it. What's very important is that there be funding for the wall, and let me be very clear. I am against illegal immigration. I am against amnesty. And I would look to see that there be tied in funding for the wall. Thank you.
Yeah, let me push you on that. Are you funding in total or a down payment?
Funding in total for the wall.
Thank you. What I'd like to do first is yield to the President's judgment and his administration's judgment on how to handle DACA. I agree with Lena that DACA was unconstitutional as a presidential edict by President Obama. It was unconstitutional. It should have gone to Congress, and it needs to go back to Congress for a resolution one way or the other. I think President Trump is correct in his strategy at this time to put both the wall and DACA both on the table at the same time. We have to wait and see what that strategy, how that strategy is really going to pan out. I think the important thing, though, when it comes to immigration is we're all opposed to illegal immigration. I think most of us up here today, our families came from somewhere else, from the Middle East or Europe or Germany or Poland. And what our families brought to this country was a love for this country, a knowledge of the language, education, and achievement that they employed to make America great. Those are the kind of folks that we need in our country, so that we have the best country available and that we don't have people that are a burden on our nation, but an asset.
I really feel that we have to start putting us first. I mean, it's like you know, locally, that means that, yeah, of course I support the wall, because that means that that's going to help with the whole drug problem. And in terms of DACA, I mean, I'm with Lena. I think that I'd have to really read what the president's going to put forth. Ultimately, I'm going to support the president, but I'm all for the wall, and I think that is first and foremost something that definitely needs to be taken.
I agree with the president sending DACA back to Congress, but as a member of the Oversight and Government Reform Committee, I actually toured the southern border. We have a wall in areas, and I've been to Nogales, which is a very dangerous place. What I witnessed was students coming from Mexico into America, going to school, and then going back to Mexico. This actually goes on right now in Arizona. They not only, the wall isn't the only thing. The problem is multidimensional. They are tunneling under the wall. They are using hang gliders and flying over the wall and dropping their drugs to their counterparts in the United States. It has to be multi-dimensional. I'm very big fan of the wall, but it has to go a little further than that. I had the opportunity to tour El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala, and witnessed what they're sending. Believe me, folks, the MS-13 gangs and all the gangs from south of the border are a big problem. It's going to continue to be a problem. Thank you very much.
Executive orders, judges going rogue, legislating from the bench. We need to go back to our system of government, a legislative branch, a real judicial branch, an executive branch. And that's why I do support the president sending it over to the legislature. It's their job to iron out the law, to figure out who we are going to keep, who we are not going to keep, what immigration policy we're going to have. My family immigrated. They came from Iraq, Christians, fled persecution, didn't have religious freedom. They came here legally, built a business, had a family, lived the American dream, like many of the people and many of all of you's families came here, living the American dream. We need to stop the illegal immigration, and Carrie Benevolia had it right. It's not just the wall. We need to build the wall. We need to fill in those tunnels. We need to have extreme vetting. And we need to make sure that those that are coming here are going to be productive members of society, not people who are milking our government.
I believe the actual question was, do you agree with the tying DACA or the Dreamers to the building of the wall?
Exactly.
And actually, it is in legislation, folks, and you should have read it, because I would not agree with that. But if it came down to that being the only way we build our wall, then that's what compromise is. I'd be forced as a representative to vote one way or another. The question was, do I agree with it being tied? Absolutely not. One is a criminal act. Now, I've actually walked the border as well in El Paso, and I understand what it means to live in an immigrant society, because my parents came here and was sponsored to this country. They were sponsored. They made this country better, and they were the impetus that got me to join the United States military, because it was the 101st Airborne Division that liberated my father from a Nazi camp. And it was, I hate to say this, but it was the Red Army that liberated my mom. It was liberation of the military, freedom. Dio presso liberar. We fight for those that are oppressed. We liberate those that are oppressed. And in the United States, the people that are coming illegally through the border, think about this. They are enslaved in this country. They are enslaved because they are not paying into Social Security, and their employers are not using E-Verify. They're breaking the law.
A specific question. I drew Lena. Lena, I'm getting really old. I don't look like it, but I am. And I've been paying into Social Security since my paper route when I was 12 years old. What are you going to do to save my Social Security, which is going to be bankrupt by 2032, I'm told? I might not make it that long.
Tyrone, we have a $6 to $7 trillion shortfall because elected politicians that have come before me refuse to make the tough decisions. Here's my proposal. For individuals that are currently receiving Social Security assistance, these individuals need to stay on the program. For individuals that are paid into the program and are near retirement, These individuals also need to be on the program. But here's the good news for this country. People are living longer. I'm 36 years old. God willing, I'll live a long life and have a long time until my retirement. I am in support of moving the retirement age from 67 to 70 over the course of 20 years, not overnight, so people like me, like so many millennials and 40 and 50-somethings in this room can prepare. This will address the problem significantly.
Thank you. All right, I have a question for each of you, and you'll have 1 minute to answer. And let's start with Carrie Benevolio.
I have a 93% conservative rating from 6 different conservative watchdog groups. It's not about just talking about it, it's about doing it, actually having done that. The only one up here that has a record we can properly evaluate. I didn't like spending your tax dollars, so I won the Taxpayers Friend Award. Actually, I got a 100% rating for cutting government waste. So I actually did those things, not talk about it. So did that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The question, please.
Certainly. What have you done specifically in the last 5 years to further conservative principles in Michigan?
That's a great question. I'm happy to answer that. I've really volunteered my time in helping young women who find themselves in tough situations. This past year, I helped a woman decide to keep her child. We housed her. We covered expenses for her. And at a very critical time, she decided to keep her baby. Secondly, I've been very involved in helping addicts who have nearly fatally overdosed. And just this last week, thank you, we sent a former employee on a $20,000 scholarship to a long-term treatment center in Florida.
All right, same question. Over the last 5 years, folks like myself and Representative Kesto, we helped turn Michigan around. We took Michigan from a state with 15% unemployment during the lost decade of Jennifer Granholm. Our unemployment rate today is now about 4%. We balanced the state budget. We started with a deficit. We have a surplus now. We put together a plan to cut the single business tax, the onerous, job-killing single business tax. That was my first bill, House Bill 4001 in 2011. We cut the personal property tax to create jobs. We cut business taxes to create jobs, and we turned Michigan around. I also have been a staunch defender of the right to life, from natural birth to natural death. I've been endorsed by Michigan Right to Life 9 times and have a solid conservative record on protecting the most vulnerable in our society. I am most proud of the work that we did to fight human trafficking in Michigan, working with Attorney General Bill Schuette while I was chair of the House Criminal Justice Committee to put an end in Michigan to this horrible crime that abuses young women and vulnerable adults. That's conservative, that's compassionate, that's pro-life, that's my track record.
Get the mic and you pass it on to the next guy.
Most recently, as I've mentioned before, I served as Donald J. Trump's statewide co-chair with 5 other wonderful people. I'd like to recognize Scott Hagerstrom, who asked me to serve. Thank you, Scott. It was very, very important to be loud and early and proud in supporting him. That is the best thing that I could have ever done to advance a conservative agenda in this country. Let me also add something else. I'm a member of the Jewish community, a proud member of the Jewish community. And I take it upon myself to have conversation with Jewish liberals across Southeast Michigan to talk to them about the Republican platform. The Republican platform is the platform of more, the opportunity for all people. And I am slowly converting one Jewish Democrat over to the right, over to the right, over to the right, one by one by one. I take it upon myself as a proud member of the Jewish community to deliver God's word and to help this country by moving the Jewish community into the conservative movement. It is high time, and I take it upon myself to do that.
Well, many of you have seen me on Let It Rip constantly, and I think I was the one that, it was the impetus of getting a lot of you involved. Because it's tough being the only guy up there screaming at Democrats and trying to teach them about what policies actually work. But many of you have seen me on Let It Rip. A lot of you don't know that I was the chairman of the Donald Trump campaign for the veteran movement. And if you look at how Donald Trump won in Michigan and other states, because we only won by 10,712 votes, think about all the veterans that participated and voted. We had an email list of over 10,000 veterans across the state of Michigan that we actually organized. But more importantly, it's not about all that campaign and all that garbage we all talk about what we did. It's about our next generation. And it's about going to high schools and talking to high schools about opportunity, and Boy Scout groups and groups of young people, to make sure that, because they truly are the future of our country. And I do that on a weekly basis. Not only that, but participate in groups like charitable groups like Capuchin Kitchen, and spreading the word of compassion on the conservative side.
It's great work by many of my colleagues, and we've all done a little bit of these things. Let me tell you what I've done in the House first. We passed civil asset forfeiture reform. It was huge because it limits government. It limits government from extending their reach into people's pockets. What else did we do? Well, we limited government bureaucrats. We have a bill currently sitting in the Senate that I've sponsored that says that those bureaucrats cannot do whatever they want. They have to have a policy from the legislature. They cannot go seize real property, your land, and then just go ahead and keep it and avoid being sued by any of you. What else have we done? I have a bill that I'm introducing when we go back to session on welfare reform. Welfare reform that says if you want to be able to receive cash subsidies from us, well, they're not going to be a handout. There'll be a handout. But we want you to make sure you get a high school diploma or a GED, because then we're going to arm them with the tools to get back into the workforce and create jobs. I'm the first member of the Chaldean community to be elected. Large population in Macomb County. Over the past 3 election cycles, they've been continuously getting out to the polls, getting out to the polls, getting out to the polls. Donald Trump did win by 10,000 votes. There were 13,000 brand new Christian Chaldean Americans that went out to vote this year, many of them in Macomb County. That's what we continue to do, is take our message to other communities.
Is for Kurt Heisey, and this is just for him. And the question is, many taxpayers believe the federal government is bloated and has become a deep state of unelected career bureaucrats with their own agenda. If you agree, which government agencies, departments do you think should be closed?
That's a great question, thank you. You know, in the legislative process in Washington, D.C., when we talk about closing departments, ultimately that is an executive level decision. It's something that the president where I would yield to the president's judgment on what departments he would like to see eliminated or reduced. I think what we have to do is focus on what are the core functions of government. That's what I do every day in Plymouth Township. We talk about what is important to us. What are the core functions of local government? What is it? Police and fire, public safety. What is it at the federal level? It's our national defense. It's making sure that we have the greatest troops and armaments in the world to protect us from all of the rogue regimes that are out there. So what we do is we preserve our national defense and we strengthen it to the full extent possible. What we have to do is look at some of these other bureaucracies that really belong at the state level, things like education, things like the Interior Department that I think could be handled by the states. There are many of these departments that are not core functions of federal government that either should be returned to the states or eliminated altogether. But what I would like to do is work with the president. I trust his judgment on these issues and make sure that we have a streamlined budget and a streamlined, smaller, more effective government that better represents the people.
Thank you. Next question is for Clint Kesto. And this question is just for him, and he has 1 minute. Do you agree with President Trump's action to cut about $280 million in financial aid to the United Nations? And this is a 2-part. Please provide a reason why the U.S. should continue as a primary funder of the United Nations.
Well, for one, the United Nations has been milking the United States for dollars, for resources, throughout any conflict across the world. And we continue to be the ones that are putting our military men and women, footing the bill, sending our people and our resources. And what is the return? Not enough to show for anything. So I would agree with him to do that. But at the same time, I do believe that we need to leverage our power and our authority to get those other power brokers, those other power broking countries to the table with their resources. And so I would agree with the president, and I would like to see him to continue to do that. Even if we go back into fund, I think we need to draw in the Germanys, the Britons, and the other large countries in.
So the next question is from Matt Wilk from the Northville Republicans.
Matt, are you here?
Thank you, and thank you to the Michigan Conservative Coalition and the Lakes Area Tea Party for putting this on. You guys do tremendous work. We see it every day. Thank you very much. My question is to Carrie Bentivolio. It seems that every few months we approach a government shutdown, as we are approaching January 20th, due to a lack of a continuing resolution to fund government operations. It's a two-part question. Do you view a government shutdown as a good thing or a bad thing? And are you willing to sign a continuing resolution that funds some things you don't want in order to keep government open?
Well, let's see. The last time when I was in Congress, we shut it down and Obama closed up everything. He actually paid overtime to have people put fences around open air World War II memorials. I don't see a problem because less government is actually good. And so if they were shut down, I don't think they would actually be missed unless you're a godless socialist that believes in big government. So I really welcomed that happening. In fact, I got phone calls from government employees saying, hey, you know, I don't get a paycheck. What happened? When they went back, they were off for the 30 days during the shutdown or whatever it was, I forget, and they got back pay. So they actually had a vacation. So I'd like to see a shutdown where they don't get paid and refund the money to us. What was the other part of the question? I got about 2 seconds.
Would you sign a continuing resolution that had things in you didn't want?
I only voted for one continuing resolution, and that got us a sequester, which was the largest cut in government spending, which was 3%. And I supported the sequester, and that's the only reason I voted for a continuing resolution. I really have no problem shutting down the government. We do keep the essential services open now. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
This is for all, meaning you each get drilled here. Let's start with on Rocky down on that end. They call it refugee resettlement. I see it as population redistribution by a frickin' socialist. But anyway, do you support it?
I'm the only candidate up here that actually worked with the Refugee Assistance Program. Folks, in 2010, I raised the red flag. This is something that I talked about in 2010. The Refugee Assistance Program is something that you pay for. Yep. We bring people from areas that are in turmoil, and we bring them to the United States and we resettle them here. And under the UNHCR, which stands for United Nations High Commission on Refugees, refugees are actually individuals that have fought or been involved in conflict. In conflict, not in civil war, not in environmental catastrophe, but in conflict where they are being persecuted. And that's not what's happening with the Refugee Assistance Program. I saw it firsthand with moving 550,000 refugees from Somalia into a refugee camp in Kenya and then being sent over to the United States. Minneapolis, Columbus, Ohio. Look at what's happening. Refugee Assistance Program works best when we help the refugees in their own country achieve the liberty in their own country. That's the program we need. Help them in their countries.
And they all seem to have $3,000 leather coats, $400 haircuts, and cell phones.
$1,980 a month, tax-free.
Go ahead.
Well, I would agree, but we do have to look at who are those individuals that are coming here. And we have to make a priority to see who are we bringing to our country in an immigration policy overall. And we have to find out, are they going to be contributing once they come here? And that's to your point. So if individuals come here as refugees because They are Christian, Chaldean, and persecuted in Iraq. Well, being slaughtered by ISIS after, we left that country, well, I think that that's okay, because we can give them an opportunity. We can give them opportunity of hope, religious freedom. But I think it's been adulterated by the prior administration. To say anybody that's been in any of these countries, whether they were in a war, not in a war, that we're going to allow them refugee visas. And then we're going to use taxpayer money to resettle them and then continue on with that taxpayer money, rather than enforcing the policy that they should be going back to work and becoming productive members of society. And I think overall, as we look at immigration, we have to look at it, number one, those folks we're allowing in, is somebody sponsoring them? Are they going to get a job, or are they going to go back to the government requesting assistance, whether they be refugees or your traditional immigration?
Let me push you on that. Do you support the, I want to say, very, very strenuous vetting of people coming in from certain countries?
I absolutely 100% support it. They should be vetted. But here's the problem. Where are we going to get information from people in these countries that aren't keeping any records? So when you look at that travel ban that the president had, I think the reason behind it was that we cannot get valid or real or clear information from that country about who they're sending over. So we have to be very cautious and have extreme vetting on that.
Same question?
Yeah, same question for everyone.
Clint's right. If I gave 4 speeches on the floor of Congress about the Christian persecution in the Middle East. One of the big problems we have is that if certain religious groups don't keep records. Catholics in the Middle East, they have a church, and there's church records that are documented, they're written in at the time it happens, baptism, births, marriages, so on and so forth. It's not like that anywhere else. This ridiculous Obama plan to have a lottery. Look, folks, you don't know who are actually coming here. We know for a fact they're undesirable. There needs to be some vetting. There's plenty of room in the Middle East to house people there until they are vetted and they can make a proper application to come to this country. You have to speak up. You have to speak up. 15 more seconds? I think I've said enough. You have to, that's what I want to do. You have to make your voice heard. You have to speak up. You need to write the letters. It's not just your representative. He's got to have a force behind him, and you are that force. God bless you. Thank you for asking that question. It's a great question.
Look, there's no such thing as a free lunch, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, yes, does every human life matter? Absolutely. But when it comes to my tax dollars, it's out of control, and it's so hard to put this in one big bucket because every story is different. Folks who are in crisis, wherever they are, of course we want to listen to what's going on with them and what's happening with them, but we cannot be everything to everyone. We just can't.
Thanks for the question. I think this whole debate on immigration underscores the fact that we have a serious immigration problem in this country. And it is because of the fact that we have had a President, Obama, who executed immigration policy by executive order, unconstitutional and illegal. We have had a Congress that has been kept in the dark on immigration policy, except when it came time for funding, of course, because they were not allowed to exercise their constitutional authority to work with the executive on setting immigration policy. Here's the deal, folks. Immigration policy in this country is a mess. It takes many different forms. The problem that we have made in this country for too many years is the fact that we do not have the President and the Congress working together under the law, under the Constitution, to exercise their rights to set a proper immigration policy that we can all agree on. And what are the fundamentals of that immigration policy? I mentioned it already. We want people who can come to this country, who bring something to the table, who will not take, but will make us more exceptional, who will love this country, who will learn the language, and who will be good neighbors. That's all we ask. But it's up to Congress and the President to set that policy once and for all and stop fooling around and doing this through executive order.
I'll echo the sentiment that immigration is a very serious problem in this country. Illegal immigration needs to stop. Future Congresswoman Epstein is going to defund sanctuary cities and be one vote closer to building the wall. Right now, we essentially have an open border between Mexico and the United States. Even though El Chapo is in prison, the Sinaloa cartel out of the Sinaloa Mountains is moving heroin and fentanyl across the border. None of us in this room, nobody at the United States federal government, not only God knows what is going across that border. We must build the wall, we must defund sanctuary cities, and be unapologetic in putting American security and freedom first.
I have to push you. This was about refugee resettlement.
Yes, I do not support refugee resettlement.
Now, I want to push all of you really quick, and this is just a raising of hands. We're going to make this really fast. How many of you would support complete ban on immigration, which we've had in this country before, until we sort out who's here, legal or otherwise? How many? Raise your hand if you would support that.
Say that again, the question?
If you support a complete total ban on immigration for a given certain amount of time, until we sort out who's already here, legal or otherwise. And that was the case until 1956.
No. Sponsorship was the case. May I?
No, just raise your hands. Do you support a ban on immigration until we sort out who's here? Just, if you do, raise your hand. All right, we got the answer there. Now, this is for rapid response for everybody. This would be best for our soon-to-be Islamic gubernatorial candidate, actually, I think. All right. This is rapid, right down the line. We'll start with Rocky. Do you disavow Sharia law and find it incompatible with the United States Constitution?
Well, Sharia is the Arabic word for law, and the answer...
In the microphone.
It's a slightly duplicitous because Sharia means law in Arabic. And do I find it incompatible with American laws and American Constitution? Absolutely correct.
All right,
and in the
yes
United States, we follow the Constitution and the laws of the United States.
Okay.
Here's the law of the land, not Sharia law, not any other law. Here it is.
In answer to your question, Sharia law is not compatible with the United States laws. Thank you.
Definitely not compatible.
American law, American courts.
This is the guiding light right here. The answer is no.
Good. Thank you all. On that one, I'll pass it over to Lauren, but I want to say that this is a very, very important issue because people do the wiggle room thing with Sharia law, and there's nothing lawful about it.
Okay, I have a specific question, and I'm going to ask this to Christine. Christine, the U.S. House passed a repeal of Obamacare in 2017, but not without dissenting votes from some Republicans. Some said it went too far, while others thought it didn't go far enough. Would you support a gradual repeal of Obamacare, as the Senate version provided, or would you only support a full repeal of Obamacare with or without replacement?
Full repeal. We are in the center of the worst opioid epidemic in history for this country. 90 Americans die every single day from an opioid-related death. It is the #1 killer of people under 50 years old, and we have not decided it's a national crisis. I find it incomprehensible. And I'm still undecided about what role the federal government plays in this, but I know for certain that locally, all of us all of us are responsible. Because in 2013, I got the worst call a mother could possibly get. Our beloved eldest son fatally overdosed. My world crashed. My husband's world crashed. We've rebuilt. It is unbelievable that we have not come to a conclusion relative to what we need to do to help people who need insurance and who absolutely need to know that we have a plan in place.
All right, I have a question for each of you, but this is a quick answer question, all right? And we'll start with Rocky. Do you support work requirements to receive food stamps?
Yes.
Well, I just told you I have a bill in the House, so yes.
That was an amendment to the Farm Bill while I was in office, and that's the reason I voted for the Farm Bill. I don't have any farmers in the 11th Congressional District, too many. I'm one of them. But yeah, I voted for that requirement.
Absolutely.
I voted for similar legislation when I was in the State House.
Yes, without question.
Next question is going to be asked by Sharon Lolio from Rattle With Us.
This question is for Rocky. Rocky, President Trump has said he wants to spend $1 trillion to improve our infrastructure. Given the deficit, all these funds will need to be borrowed. Is it more important to borrow money to improve infrastructure or to cut spending to reduce our national debt?
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. We need to cut spending. You know, we passed tax reform, and that's great, but tax reform is only one part of it. We need to cut spending. And yes, infrastructure is one of those things that's a federal government requirement, or the federal government should be responsible for rebuilding our infrastructure. That's what we pay taxes for, don't we? National defense infrastructure. But folks, let me just give you a little bit of history lesson that I'm sure most of you, because you are all educated people. The 11th district, by the way, is the most educated districts in the state of Michigan. Did you know that? You already know that the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, although he was in the Navy, I'm Army, Admiral Mullen, said in the #1 question that was asked of him, what is our largest national security issue to this country? And his answer was our national debt. Ladies and gentlemen, before you leave here tonight, or maybe when you get home, I want you to check the US debt clock and look at what it is. We're going to be at 21 trillion in debt, and that will overcome our GDP very shortly.
Our next question is quick, one-word answer, and this goes to each and every one of you.
Starting.
Sure, we'll start with Rocky. Do you believe in man-made climate change?
No.
What is it again?
Do you believe in man-made climate change / global warming, whatever?
No.
Absolutely no.
No.
The climate has changed many times throughout the course of Earth's history, but we should all be working to fight pollution and things like that.
So that's yes or no?
Oh, that was do you believe in global warming?
Do you believe in man-made global warming? Thank you.
I do not believe in man-made global warming.
Thank you.
Security, they're all deniers. They're all deniers. Take them away for re-education. Isn't it astounding that a fake religion has risen as tenaciously as it has as the global climate change religion? It's insane. All right, you got me again here. This is for everybody.
Starting.
Do you support term limits? Let's start with Lena. Do you support term limits for members of Congress? Now it's three-part. If so, would you commit to self-imposed term limits, and for how many terms?
I do support term limits I believe that our founding fathers designed our Constitution with a citizen legislature in mind. In other words, what that means is that citizens would be skilled in trades and jobs at home, go to the United States federal government, serve their fellow American, and then come back to the private sector. This is what our founding fathers designed the Constitution to do, and this is what I will do. I will be a citizen legislator. I support term limits. I am willing to sign a term limit pledge. For Congress, I believe it's 6 terms at 2 years a term for a total of 12 years.
So you'd do the full 6-year term rather than say, for example, I'm only going to serve for 2 terms?
In Congress, I would want to serve 6 terms to have a total of 12 years. There is a problem right now in the House of Representatives that as a freshman, you have no input, very little rank, and have very difficult time getting anything done. I believe it will take 10 to 12 years for somebody to be relevant, to lead a committee, and to affect the positive change. At the Senate level, I'm in favor of 2 terms, but I'm running for the United States Congress. 6 terms, 12 years, then back to the private sector that I know and love. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Kurt, how many terms?
Well, I'm a victim of term limits. I don't know about the rest of you. Yeah, Rocky's a victim. Clint's going to be a victim soon. But we have term limits in Michigan, and there's pros and cons to it. I think that the cons, frankly, outweigh the pros, to be honest with you, Tyrone. Various states have tried term limits for Congress. You have to apply it equally, though. Otherwise, it's a violation of the Constitution. So if we're going to do it, we have to do it in every state. I don't think we're going to get to that point. In Michigan, we have seen, I think term limits is too short. It's 6 years for a state rep, it's 8 years for a state senator. And what we've seen already, I think, is a lack of knowledge by a lot of the incoming legislators. We've elected some rather unusual people along the way who don't really get it, who don't really appreciate the importance of their job. And I think it puts too much pressure, or too much authority in the hands of the lobbyists and all of the other interest groups that are out there. So I'm not, to be honest, I'm not in favor of term limits. But if we're going to do it, we have to have it on a state-by-state basis so that it's constitutional.
I didn't write this question, but I think Lena makes a good point, and that is, I think the gist of this question is, should we have more John Conyers type? And I go back to the old line. In Congress for 40 years, things like that.
I agree. I go back to the old line that we've heard before. We have term limits. They're called elections. And what people have to do is they have to get involved, they have to get engaged. It's the responsibility of the political parties, not to just write off congressional districts because, well, they're too Democrat, they're too liberal for us. We need to engage those communities. We need to flip those seats back from being Democrat to Republican seats. It's doable. We've been doing it in Michigan now for the last several years because we're showing people that we have a better vision for America. We have a better vision for Michigan. We're creating jobs. We're getting government out of the way. We are allowing freedom to reign, frankly, and that is something that appeals to people of all different backgrounds.
Yeah, I definitely feel that there need to be term limits, just as our founding fathers suggested. I mean, Connors is a great example. Much too long. Career politicians, we're at risk when we allow that, and we the people, that's you and me. So I think that it has to be determined by state, and quite frankly, I think that 2 terms is fair.
I signed an agreement to do only 3 terms, and my first term, we passed 3 pieces of legislation. My first one, 3 months after I took office, it was an amendment that passed the House. Didn't get past Terry Reid, but it passed. I think you can get a lot done in those 6 years. You just have to work hard and be dedicated. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and didn't hit the sack until sometime between 10 and 10:30. I think the biggest problem we have is very few members of Congress actually read the bills. That's why I offered Read the Bills Act. We did make an impression. Some people say we didn't do enough, but the people that were saying that actually were comparing me to people that have been there like 8 years. So I felt very, very comfortable and complimented by that fact. But you can get a lot done. I was asked to be chairman of an education committee once I was reelected, and I kindly informed them that it probably wasn't going to happen, but it was nice to be offered that chairmanship of a subcommittee in education. But I would have gotten rid of Common Core and probably the Department of Education. It is a state issue.
Okay, I want to keep back term limits.
Yes, that's exactly what I said. I signed an agreement, term limits, I believe it.
Good.
3 terms, thank you.
Give it to Clint then.
We had someone come and speak to us from the Convention of States a couple months back, Senator, and he said this. He said, 12 years is all you need. If you can't get it done in 12 years, then you're not going to get it done. So I would say we should have a term limit. And if it's 12 years, they mix it, match it, however you want to do, Senate, House, whatever it is, it should be 12 years. Frankly, I think that'd be great in the state of Michigan. You mix, you match, 12 years, then you're out. And then you do have a citizen legislature. But I think what we also need to do is start taking the power from Washington and pushing it back to the states. So when you talk about what are the pros and the cons, what are we going to do? We have to keep in mind that we need to take away that authority that Washington keeps snatching up and getting larger and larger and larger and deeper and more bureaucrats, and get it back to the states. And I think that term limits could be helpful with that.
A few minutes ago, I was called a victim of term limits. I am no victim, and I've not been a victim of term limits because I worked to support term limits in the state of Michigan. Folks, there was a guy named Dick Headley and Patrick Anderson, and I was one of the co-chairs at age 19 to bring term limits to the state of Michigan, and I'm proud to have supported it. Furthermore, if you really want to learn about term limits and lobbyists, listen to Jack Abramoff. Do you know who Jack Abramoff is? One of the worst scumbags on the face of the earth, who now has turned his life around and is a speaker for Convention of States, who I actually am one of the people that supports it in the District 11 here, and supports term limits for our congressional members. Out of all the members here, I'm the first one, and I believe so far the only one, that has signed a term limits pledge. Because I believe the only way you move power from Washington is by moving the power from Washington. Get rid of the money in politics. Folks, I'm a conservative, but if you really want to know where the problem is, it's the money in politics and it's the power. It's all about the cash. If we really want to move our country forward and stop dividing ourselves, term limits is probably a way to go.
Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. As we agreed to when we drew numbers before the debate started, 1 to 6 was the order for opening, and then we're going to go 6 to 1 for closing. So we'll have 1 minute closing, and we're going to start with Lena.
Fellow patriots, it has been a great honor to run for the United States Congress. I made the decision to move from the United States Senate race into the United States congressional race because I knew that I would be the strongest candidate to combat any Democrat come November of 2018. There are a lot of great candidates here. Some are friends. I'm sure they're friends too, but we have a very serious decision to make. Who among us will be able to, first of all, amass the millions of dollars necessary to compete against the Democrat? That is me. Who will be able to spread the conservative message across the 11th district? That is me. I am a business outsider, and I am very, very concerned, and I moved into this race specifically because I knew that if we ran a career politician, or even worse, somebody who has run over and over and over again and lost, that we would be in great compromise. The midterm for the party in power is always a difficult year. We have the fight of our lives ahead of us. I am the strongest candidate for the 11th Congressional District Republican nomination. I humbly ask for your support. I will work tirelessly for you, guided by the United States Constitution, Article 1. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you for having us all here this evening. It's been a tremendous turnout, and we appreciate the opportunity. My name is Kurt Heisey, and I am the Plymouth Township Supervisor, and I'm running for the United States Congress. Why? Because Washington isn't working for us. And if you look at my track record for the last 25 years in local, county, and state government, I've employed common sense conservative principles to make government work for us, to make government smaller and more efficient, to cut taxes, to stand up for those who are unborn, who are vulnerable, to fight the scourge of human trafficking. Folks, these are serious times in this world and in our nation. We need serious people with a proven track record of results who have the education and the experience necessary to hit the ground running in Washington, D.C. next year. This is no time, no place for on-the-job training. This is a time when we need people who understand the process, who understand how Washington works, who understands how government works, and more importantly, who can make government work for you. When we vote in August, we have to remember what's going to happen in November. Lena's right. The Democratic Party is going to throw everything they have at us. We need a candidate who can stand toe-to-toe with whoever they put forward, who will advance a strong, concise, optimistic, conservative message, not just based on slogans, but based on success, a proven track record about the issues that really matter most to people. Folks, I'm that person. I'm Kurt Heisey, and I want to be your next congressman. Thank you and good night.
I feel that we are here because we share the same values. As a neighbor, as a friend, as a mother, as a small business owner, I'm disappointed that I didn't hear more from you, because you are the people. So I think Trump has kind of changed the rules here, okay? Whether it be through his Twitter account. What matters is what's most important to you. Please visit my website, bondsforcongress.com. I will bring the last 10 years of my business experience, my personal experience, my heart, and my soul to help lift this district to where it can be. Let us be the example for the nation. And I promise you, I will be right in the president's ear. I can guarantee it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Terry Bentivolio. I was your congressman at one time with a conservative record of 92%. I'm the only one up here that actually, for a congressional race, won against a Democrat, and it didn't cost millions of dollars. What it was having a conservative message and being the right guy who's just like you. Not some fancy lawyer, not some, well, we can just go on. It's a regular guy just like you. I have the experience, talk about hitting the ground running. Yes, I know the personalities, I know the players. I will tell you, in all honesty, the two biggest problems you have in Washington is Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi. They both should see a psychiatrist. And I hope the media press tells them that. Because I've actually talked to them, if you can carry on a conversation with them. But I will tell you one thing is I taught, what qualifies me the most, quite honestly, is the House historian thought it was pretty funny that I'm the only one with experience teaching special ed for emotionally impaired children, which is the left side of the floor of Congress. You have to have patience and understanding. And by the way, I got 3 bills passed with 100% bipartisan support. Yes, been there, done that, hit the ground running, proven record. You're not taking a risk with me. You know exactly I stand on my record. Have we made mistakes? Absolutely. Will we fix them? Absolutely. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you all for coming.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm Clint Kesto. First off, I want to thank the panel and the organizers. You guys did a tremendous job, a great venue. So give it up to them. They were great. I told you I'm from the community as well. I've been serving the 39th district. I served the community as a prosecutor. I fought for victims. I fought for the people I represent. But out of all the titles I've ever had, the most important one was dad. That was the best. I have 2 children, and I look at them and I look at their future. Where are we going to be as a country? Are we going to continue the same old politics that we have in Washington? Or are we finally going to bring conservative change? Are we going to protect the Constitution, or are we going to allow people to water it down? Are we going to fight for religious freedoms, fight for the right to life? Are we going to fight in our Second Amendment for our right to protect ourselves? Are we going to fight against government intrusion? Are we going to maintain that due process? And I look at my 2 children and I say, we need that conservative change. We need the jobs back here in Michigan and the United States. We need to put America first. We need to protect our borders and protect our national security against folks like North Korea, Iran, ISIS, America's enemies, and we need to stand with our allies like Israel. We need to make sure that your voice is heard. And if you look back at what I've done, I've been here with the people, office hours every month, to hear what you have to say. And I'll continue to do that. I'll be your representative, I'll be your congressman, I'll be your friend, and I look forward to serving you. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Folks, one of the things I said earlier was that this is one of the most educated districts. By the way, this is also the wealthiest districts in the state of Michigan. No one will buy this district. No Democrat, no one. It belongs to the people. Folks, you know darn well, Democrats and everybody keeps talking about how we've got this deficit in 2018, the midterms. Look around you. We're in January, and you just sold out the largest auditorium in Novi. There is no deficit of motivation. These people are ready. And you're ready for a candidate that is not a conservative change candidate during the election. You're ready for a candidate that will work for you and be conservative all their life. I am here to work for you just like I served my soldiers that served with me. I made them a pledge that I will never let them down. My wife is here. My daughter couldn't be. She's past her bedtime. But I will tell you this, as I've made my pledge to my wife, I will never let this district down, and I won't let you down. And we will change Washington by working on things that no freshman ever has. If I can't do it, then none of us can do it. I'm asking you to visit our website at rockyworksforus.com. It's much simpler than saying Ruchkowski works for us, so it's just real simple, rockyworksforus.com. Today at the straw poll, I hope to earn your support. God bless you. God bless our country. God bless the men and women that fought for them and the people that built our country. All of you. I look forward to serving and working for you.
I have a quick question for the candidates.
Yes or no?
Is there, just raise your hand. Will everybody here take the Michigan Conservative Coalition candidate survey? If we get that to you, will you please fill that out and get that back to us?
Yes.
Raise your hand.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, this was so much fun. I think we really are going to have to do this again, eh? Yeah. A big round of applause too, please, for the candidates for participating. Thank you